Hello everyone and welcome to Season 2 of Generation Gap. I am your host Vincent Lowry and our debatable topic today is racism. I will be joined by my panel of Taishay, Dr. Ortiz, and Edwin. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and I will have my panel members now introduce themselves from my left to my right.
Hi there, how you doing? My name is Taishay. I'm a senior here at IUP. I'm a dual back in child development and psychology.
Hi everyone, I'm Vicky Ortiz. I am a professor of communications media.
Hi you guys, my name is Edwin Altamirano. I'm a comm media major and that's me.
All right, awesome. So to start things off, racism, as we know it, is a very big deal in society as itself, how it has caused conflicts with other people, friends, family. I'm going to start the conversation off with, is racism a big thing in society today? Taishay, we'll start with you.
Start with me, okay. I think it is a big thing and it shouldn't be. I think that it definitely has begun to capitalize more because it's taking place on campuses worldwide, and students are jumping on board through social media. So it's becoming bigger than it would have been because it's easily accessible to the world outside of the people involved in it.
I agree. I think that racism is a big problem today, and I think that having the media and the ability to have all this information and talk to all these groups of people kind of helps perpetuate it in a way. But I do think that it is a big problem and we have to continue trying to address it and doing something about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously I agree with both of them. I think a lot of people I think there's a lot of groups of people out there that kind of want to ignore the fact that, you know, racism actually is a thing and they kind of just want to brush it under the rug, but that's not really the case. It's not what you should do to it. It's there, you know, we all come from different backgrounds and cultures, traditions, or whatever it may be. And I mean, we're all different and, you know, awesome in our own way. And I think we should all accept that and just try to be more open-minded on it.
With you saying being open-minded, Edwin, do you think the racism with different groups of people and ignoring the fact that it is a problem today, do you think it's more of overt racism today or more of institutionalized?
I think, that's a tough one. I would have to say that it could be, I don't know, it's a little of both. Mm-hmm. It could be a little of both, but it really depends on the person, on how a certain person thinks or whatever their background is. Because you can go from one community to another and the view on racism or just the view on how different cultures interact with each other is different everywhere you go. And I've noticed that from going from county to county, all over the state and the country. So.
I agree. I mean, I think it's a lot of both. And I think we see a lot of the overt racism, like we said, in the media. We see it every day. We hear it every day, whether it's presidential candidates talking about it or different situations at protests or on campus. I think it's most definitely institutionalized, and I think that's one of the biggest problems because that in itself helps feed what society responds to and the way that the culture is perpetuated. So I think the institutional racism helps perpetuate the other one, and it's kind of a vicious cycle, right? It continues happening over and over again in different situations and because of different beliefs and different people who are in charge and continue perpetuating it.
Well, I'm definitely gonna have to agree with both statements here, but I think that institutionalized racism is stronger than the other one because you don't know that it's there. It's not like right in your face, bam, this is it. Especially when it goes down to the school system. Let's just look at our textbooks. That's just a prime example of institutionalized racism. Like, why aren't the textbooks portraying what America really looks like? It's not just all white. It's a mixture of white, black, Hispanic, all of these, but the textbooks don't portray that. So that's just like one of the biggest things that I see is institutionalized racism. So it's definitely hidden, but people really don't pay attention to it because they're oblivious to the fact that it's actually there.
And going along with like what you're talking about on like textbooks, I've read so many like different articles on how there are a lot of different organizations trying to bring that back, or trying to bring back the whole history of, you know, America itself, and like everything all different types of people have gone through in the United States, and how I guess, I don't know, the educational system really wants to kind of not put as much spotlight on those like not traumatic issues, but those like harder issues that United States has gone through, and kind of just make it like, oh no, it wasn't that bad. This happened, but you know, we've gone through it and we are where we are now and everything's okay. But that's not the case. Like, you know, things sometimes get hard for different races, and sometimes, I'm not saying it gets better, because that's all perspective. Yeah. How we see it, it's all perspective. But I do agree with what you're saying on like the whole textbook situation. I really wish I saw more stories about, you know, I guess undocumented immigrants from Latin American countries or Asia or Africa, stuff like that.
And everyone, I'm going to cut you off right there, but we are having a great start of this discussion now, but we are going to turn it over to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, I'm your host, Lindsay.
And I'm Brandon, and we're your hosts for Entertainment News Break.
We cover weekly news on your favorite movies and television series.
And this semester, we're introducing 2 new segments. Don't miss Entertainment News Break every Wednesday at 8:30 on IUP TV, Channel 20.
And don't forget to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and follow us on Twitter at EMB_IUPTV.
Welcome back to our wonderful conversation, and we're going to move on with social media and media today, and how racism is seen in media. And actually, all three of you actually touched upon media and how racism is affected through media. So do you think that we are taught racial stereotypes through media today?
Absolutely. For example, I teach a class on media effects, and in terms of the research that goes in it, there's a whole chapter. I spend an entire week in this class just talking about stereotypes and how they're perpetuated by the media. And I mean, we're talking about race a lot, but we also talk about gender, we talk about sexuality, etc. And a lot of the times, you know, like we talked about later, we don't really realize what's going on because we absorb it. And, you know, there's some media effects research that says, you know, we know what's going on, right? We are aware of the impact that media may be having on us, but at the same time, if we've been watching this, and if racism is institutionalized, then it's something that we're exposed to over the course of our lives. And we might not have, you know, the critical eye to be able to pull that out or to examine and say, hey, what's really going on here?
No, yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on with that, and just kind of like adding more to it. It's just, I notice like what you said about like, is social media, like, does it create more like stereotypes? And it does, and I've noticed that a lot of people are trying to like kind of just lighten the mood, I feel like. And so, you know, let's just joke around like on social media. And because I can be typing something that's a stereotype and I think it's hilarious, and I don't know who's going to be like reading it, and some people are going to be affected one way and some people won't. But like, I'm just saying it as an example. They could be saying, they can be hurt by it. And I don't know, I really feel that we should like kind of like move towards lighting the mood in a way. But I don't know, I think some people are learning through it. And also like in television shows, we show like stereotypes within like different races. And like we find it funny. For instance, there are shows like Telenovela, which is all about like, it's an all Latino cast. And within that show, they show a lot of stereotypes about like the Latin people who are Latino. And then we have Fresh Off the Boat, which is an all Asian cast, which they hit upon like those stereotypes as well. So it's kind of, you can see that the media is trying to do some good in bringing in these different like cultures and trying to like make, bring them a part of like the whole community of the United States. But at times you're going to get people that take it too seriously or are way too offensive. I don't know.
Well, why do you have to educate people by making fun of it? I mean, I think that's the main issue that people take to it. You can educate people about people that come fresh off the boat. You know, we love saying that from a different way. And it seems like most of those shows that you were talking about, and I was also thinking of Blackish, are all comedies, right? And we laugh at it. We use these stereotypes to laugh a lot. And I'm not saying that, you know, it's offensive, but sometimes it can be. And like you said, everybody kind of internalizes things differently from the media. And people are so mean on the internet. People are so mean on social media and on the comments section. And of course, I'm all for freedom of speech. You know, you have that right. But at the same time, it's almost like you have to be mean on social media in order to get noticed or in order to people to pay attention to you. So we're kind of helping this kind of mean girls, mean boys culture through the comment sections on media, whether it's social media or it's in articles or whatever it is.
But that's what's so interesting about it is the fact that, like, what you said, like, why do we have to laugh about it? And, like, why do we create shows like Fresh Off the Boat and telenovela? These are sitcoms or dom-coms, whatever they may be. They're for comedic relief.
Right.
But we aren't seeing any programs done by the U.S., like done in the U.S. that are, you know, English, like speaking in English, and are from different cultures. We're not seeing full cast that's Latino and is a serious show. We're not seeing like full Asian cast, which is a serious show. We're not seeing dramas. We're seeing sitcoms because that's what people want to see. That's what the media wants to see. They want to see humor, and that's what we give them. We talk about bringing in people from different cultures. Well, we don't want to put them in the light that shows them like very seriously, because it's all about ratings. It's all about money. That's not what's going to bring you the money. What brings you the money is what's the hot topic and talking about the stereotypes. And the way to talk about the stereotypes is by humor. And that's just like how it is right now. And it's a sad truth, but it is the truth.
I think it's about ratings too, but I also think it's about controlling the image. If I can control the image, I can control how you feel about yourself. So by putting that imagery on the TV and showing you that you're a joke to this world, that's how you're going to feel. You're not going to have that much self-esteem to embrace your culture and embrace your race. Like most of the black characters portrayed in media, the women are either damsels in distress, or they can't get a man, or they become successful and bitter and lonely. Like that's not how all black women are. And it could be vice versa with the men as well, but they portray it in an image that they want us to see ourselves and they want the world to see us as, which is not fair, because that's not how it is.
It's very understandable, Taisha. We're having an excellent discussion right now. But right now we're going to turn it over to Lucy Kitchen for Ruffle My Feathers. We'll be right back.
Thanks, Vinny. Welcome to Ruffle My Feathers. I'm going to talk about an issue that's plaguing a lot of people today in America, racism. Now, a lot of people think racism doesn't exist, but that's not true. Just because, you know, we pretend that racism doesn't exist, that doesn't mean it's not there. There's a lot of examples out there that show racism is still alive, from the Trayvon Martins, you know, the Browns, the Tamir Rices of the world. There's a lot of stuff going on that's affecting the world. Another thing that I would caution everybody, black, white, indifferent, just listen. A lot of people have a problem talking about racism because they let their emotions get the best of them. If you listen to what other people are saying, you could clearly understand the point that they're trying to get at. So when you listen to somebody, black, white, indifferent, you can tell what their true intentions are. So I caution everybody to just listen to other people's perspectives, because that's how we're going to work on getting racism out of America. One final issue that I want to, you know, just caution everybody. Just when people say racist, people think that they're talking about just white people. No, everybody could have some form of racial, you know, sentiments or prejudice. So it's not just white people. So I would please caution everybody to just think about the words that you're saying and be very aware of what you're saying and what's coming out your mouth, because just because someone's white, that doesn't mean you're a racist. You were taught to be a racist. People are taught to be racist. They're not born racist. So let's all help each other out and help each other understand different cultures, and we'll work together and figure out this problem of racism. Back to you, Vinny.
Thank you, Malusi, and welcome back to our great discussion here on Generation Gap. But we're going to continue our discussion with the question of, do you think there's enough education in whether it be grade school, high school, or secondary education on racism and how the stereotypes in society and how it is wrong and what is accepted and what isn't accepted?
Absolutely not. And it goes all the way down to pre-K. I used to work in a daycare center, and one of the kids didn't understand the concept that I was a different race from them. Like most of the staff there were white. So they asked me when they would put on sunscreen, why don't I wear sunscreen? They didn't understand that concept, which you can tell that they don't engage in conversation about race. And I worked at a summer camp for 12 weeks in the summer, and I was the only black staff, and all the kids were amazed with my hair. If they had seen someone who looked like me and had hair like me, they wouldn't be that amazed. I mean, they may ask questions, but they were amazed with my hair, and all they wanted to do is run their fingers through my hair because they haven't seen it before. So it shows that they're not being taught about cultural diversity, and they're not being taught that other cultures and other races exist, because when you see this person in front of you, you should not be that amazed at all. That's like me seeing an Asian, be like, oh, that's an Asian. I shouldn't be that amazed. Like, I know that they exist. I should want to engage in conversation and learn more about their culture and them to teach me things, but it's definitely not being taught. I mean, I think they're putting more image into the books, like in pre-K, but it's not being talked about. Like, kids, they say kids don't know what they're talking about. It's a lie. Kids know. Like, they know when someone is different. They will ask you, well, why don't your skin look like mine? I had a little kid ask me that. He said, why does your skin look like mine? And then 2 parents came in and dropped the new student off, and they were black. They said, that's your mom and dad, because we looked alike. So you can tell that these conversations aren't taking place. So they make their own associations, but if you allow them to make their own associations without any correction or guidance, then it can go either way. It can go good or it can go bad.
I definitely don't think there's enough education about racism, about cultural sensitivity. I mean, think about things that happen in Texas, right, where the state gets to choose textbooks, for example, and they try to outlaw studies, for example, in Arizona, studies about Mexican Americans and about Mexican American history, right? So this brings the conversation back to the institutionalization of racism, right? And, you know, we teach classes here at the college level, but a lot of the times it's very specific students who are interested in taking classes that have to do with anything outside of, you know, the norm or what they know. And a lot of this is, I'm not saying it's their fault, right? They're the product of their educational system and where they grew up. And if that happens to be an all-white population, they don't know about it. No one's taught them about it. But, you know, at the same time, we have to also teach our children to want to learn about other cultures and other races and other backgrounds. But I think there's still a long way to go in terms of that.
Yeah, I think it's really frustrating also at times, kind of like going back to what you were saying about like your experiences and like how people like react to you. Like I remember when I was a kid, I've always been like so you know, positive towards like my family history, and like my family's from Honduras, which is a small little country in Central America. And I remember I would go to like, when I was in middle school, I'd tell my friends, I'm like, oh yeah, like my parents are from Honduras. And they're like, what? And they would just kind of look at me, and I'm like, yeah, they're from Honduras or whatever. And they would say, well, I thought you were like from Mexico or something like that.
I was Mexican my whole life.
Yeah, and they're like, I mean, isn't that the same thing? And I kind of just like look at them. I'm like, why is that the same thing?
Right.
And they're like, oh, well, you guys eat the same stuff. You speak the same language. It's nothing really different. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? And it's so frustrating because I feel like now, you know, now I have to like explain to you. And I'm totally okay with that. But the fact that the system can't like already have done the work so that when I'm having a conversation with them, the things that is coming out of their mouth isn't something, you know, naive or ignorant. And like you said, it's not their fault. It's not their fault at all. They were just they were raised and they were pampered throughout that whole system, this educational system that really kind of just like blindsides, you know, anyone who's different and tries to make it seem like everything's okay, kind of saying what I was saying before.
Well, I do think racism kind of trickles down. I mean, I moved to a small town in the state of Indiana in '94, and I was the only Latino kid in my whole school. And my teachers didn't know if I spoke English. I did. But I would, you know, it was 5th grade here, and I'm getting like death threats on my answer machine from kids because I was different and because no one took the time to sit there and talk to me and see if I actually spoke English. right? And they would call me all kinds of names, and then I would have to go and ask, what does this mean? And it's definitely changed, right? As we see the Latino population rising, but now I feel like I have to defend the fact that the Latino population is always rising in the United States, which is a totally different issue.
And right now we're having a great discussion, like always, folks. But right now we're going to turn it over to a commercial break. We will be right back. Welcome back, and we are moving into our last discussion of racism, and we're going to start this last discussion with what world would we live in if there was no racism?
A world of true equality and what it means to actually have justice. I'm so tired of hearing this term justice when it doesn't exist. You cannot have justice when you take the us out of it. It has to include everyone. When you say justice, it should include everyone. It shouldn't be, well, we're going to treat this case a certain way because this person's ethnicity is this, or we're going to treat this person a certain way because they look like they could be the suspect. You know how many people look like this? It has to be fair. It's not fair, and like the laws are showing it. They keep making these nonsense laws just to encourage the non-equality, the non-justice, because certain people won't be affected by these laws if you actually look at them with a lens of a critical eye. So I think we would actually have equality and justice if there was no racism, because people would actually see people as human beings instead of by the color of their skin.
I agree. I mean, it would be great in terms of equality. It sounds awesome. I don't know if that's actually possible.
I don't think it's possible.
At all. It's kind of part of human nature to pick and choose for some reason.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Honestly, like it would be complete like paradise. Like that would be the most perfect world ever. But like you guys said, like it's I truly don't think it's like that's the sad thing about it. Like I don't think it's possible because it's just there's too many different people. Not that there's too many different people, but it's really difficult to persuade a huge like population like that. I don't know.
It's difficult to persuade because you have to look at the morals and the values that this country was built on. This is the meanest country I've ever seen in my life. If you go back to history, they just be beating, bullying, and abusing all types of races just to get what they want. Like, a country built on those morals and values is going to be hard to deteriorate and start with a new foundation. The foundation is corrupt from the beginning. And you said it's human nature. Like, human nature don't teach us to hate each other. It teaches us to love each other. We learn to hate one another. We learn to put people in these bubbles and categorize them as this and as that. And babies will show you that. Babies have no preference. If they like you, they like you. If they don't like you, they don't like you. Even when they're getting a toddler, if they like you, they like you. If they don't like you, they don't like you. It's not because you're black, brown, Hispanic, Asian. It's because they just don't like you. Something about you just doesn't rub them the right way. So that's definitely a learned behavior. And it shouldn't be taught. You should actually teach the opposite. You should teach, if you can teach me how to hate somebody, you should be able to teach me how to love somebody.
Right.
No, I think what makes it even more difficult is the fact that it's not just the United States. It's literally the whole world. Because like you can see racism in any country you go to. It doesn't matter what country it is, but you'll find some sort of racism. Of course. And that's what the bottom line is the fact that it's not just here. It's not just our neighboring countries, but it's the whole entire planet.
And as we see it, it's usually tied to color of the skin, right? If you go, for example, where I'm from in Guatemala, you would never know I'm from Guatemala, right? People say, what, you're from Guatemala? Because of the accent, but also in the scale of skin tone, I'm in the white people side, right? And as we see it, and going back to it being institutionalized, usually the people with the brown skin are the people who struggle a lot more, right? It's all part of colonization. I think colonization played a big role in the way we got to where we are today. I think that's very true in the United States, colonization of Native Americans. I think it happens everywhere you go. And I think it's, sadly, racism is the history of modern society, right? Because it's institutionalized within the divide and conquer and get rich and make your way the right way.
People are power hungry. Power is the root of all evil. I wouldn't say money, because people say money is the root of all evil. It's power. You want to be in a position of power so you can control what's happening, so you can keep yourself out of harm's way, and not only keep yourself out of harm's way, but put yourself on this pedestal. That's not the way life works. Some people are higher up than other people. Some people fall. Some people stumble. Some people may not get back up. It just might be their time for them to go. But power is just pretty much the root of all evil, and it continues to empower this ideal of racism, that these people have to be in this category. Because, again, if you control the image and how they feel about themselves, they won't know that they have the same power that you have.
And what you were saying, you said the very background of this country is terrible. But now today it is 2016 now today, and it is seen that minorities will eventually become the majority in the United States of America. And do you think once the minorities become the majority, do you think racism will decline, like nearly decline?
No, and I hate the term minority, because I feel like we're not really a minority, because if you put all the minorities together, don't we become the majority?
Of course.
So how are we the minority? You're just saying that to make us think that we're less than what we really are. So I hate that term. Like, we're just different. There's a whole bunch of us that's different, and you just put this one class of people at the top to make it seem like the majority. But if you put all these different classes together, we're actually majority. And do I think that it will make racism end if the minority becomes the majority? No, because I don't think that image will ever be put into perspective, and it's going to be racism will peak just to keep it from happening. It's going to peak. Like, if you compare like the 1964 to what's going on now, we didn't come that far. Like, history is repeating itself. We're going backwards.
Yeah.
We're going backwards, and it doesn't make any sense. So I don't know.
Thank you, Taisha, for that. But right now we're going to wrap up the show. We've had a great discussion on racism, everything wrong with it in society today, and I just want to thank you, Taisha, Dr. Ortiz, and Edwin, on a fantastic conversation. And please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and also look us up on YouTube. Have a great night.